Welcome to the Speak Up channel. In today's lesson, you'll delve into a series of brief conversations meticulously crafted to enhance your proficiency in understanding spoken English. Our aim is to gauge your current level of comprehension. The most effective means of advancing your English skills lies in a combination of attentive listening and immersive reading. Our aspiration is to see you conversing fluently, akin to a native speaker. Without further ado, let's kick off our program and elevate your English proficiency. We hope you soon speak like a native. Let's begin our program and boost your English. The centuries-long history of roses as cosmetics. When I was about 12 and my sister was 14, someone gave us a fancy-looking bottle of highly fragrant rose lotion. The bottle was pale pink with old-fashioned pictures of roses twining across the label, and its screw-off cap was shiny gold. We went crazy for it. It was incredibly powerful, so heavily rose, and we would delicately rub it on our wrists. All we had to do was walk down the hallway to make our dad holler, "Who's wearing that flowery crap? Go wash it off." So lush, so grown-up, so feminine-smelling. It was the way we thought a sophisticated woman would smell. Nothing smelled better than roses. Nothing. People have always gone a little crazy over roses. One of the earliest recorded ingredients for beauty and cosmetic treatments, roses have been around, according to fossil evidence, for 35 million years. Originally found mainly in Asia and the Middle East, these flowers inspired poetry and songs with their velvety beauty and heady perfume. Ancient Egyptians boiled down roses to make them into a cosmetic and healing balm, and used scented oils, rose among them, to clean themselves and protect against dry desert winds. And legend has it that Cleopatra filled her rooms with roses whenever she met with Mark Antony, believing that he'd later think of her any time he caught a whiff of a rose. Ancient Greeks, Romans, and Phoenicians had enormous public rose gardens and considered them crops as necessary as wheat fields. Around the 10th century AD, a new way of steam distilling rose petals was invented in Persia, allowing the production of attar of roses, also known as rose oil or rose absolute. This extravagantly expensive rose oil, it took 2,000 roses to make 1 gram of the stuff, was used in costly perfumes and medicinal treatments for the wealthy. By medieval times, roses, rose oil, and rose water were everywhere. Men and women mixed rose water with white powder to lighten their skin. Pale complexions were fashionable. Rose oil was believed to remove scars, and rose water formed the base of many common perfumes. Cut to the 17th century, when some nobility in Europe considered rose water to be legal tender. That is, roses were so valuable that they were money. So it's no wonder that by the 19th century and early 20th century, you could find not only rose perfumes, but also rose-scented lotions, soaps, and face creams, and even rose-scented leather gloves for kids. At that time, you also might sprinkle rose water on handkerchiefs or garments while ironing, or tuck rose sachets into drawers to keep linens smelling sweet. Today, the extraction process for natural rose oil hasn't changed since it was first conceived centuries ago. That means it's still insanely expensive, and that's why we have synthetic versions of rose oil now. Synthetics make it possible to get the full-bodied scent of roses in our perfumes and products without having to get a second job to pay for them. We can enjoy hints of rose in everything from our balms, blushes, and to serums and shower gels. We have simple rose scents, like that lotion my sister and I were obsessed with, and we have elegant rose notes added to perfumes like Yves Saint Laurent Paris and Guerlain Rose Barbère. Joy by Jean Patou. The latter was created in 1930 and remains one of my favorite perfumes of all time. Joy uses real rose oil in its recipe, meaning that it's pricey, so I only use it on special occasions. Every time I open the bottle and sniff that note of luxurious wild rose, it's like dabbing sophistication behind my ears. Roses are the ultimate in scent, and nothing smells as good.
Happiness and the good does being happy make us good? And does being good make us happy? Bertrand Russell was emphatically of the opinion that being happy makes us good, and equally emphatic that certain ideas about what is good make people unhappy. It is tempting to agree with both points, even if they need qualification, for assuredly, being happy is far more likely to make us good than if we are unhappy, and Puritanism of all forms has certainly made plenty of people unhappy. But there are, of course, no guarantees in either direction. The feckless ruffian might be happy but not good. The rigidly orthodox practitioner of a narrow and self-denying morality might suffer in order to obey its strictures, yet take pleasure in thus suffering. Human nature is various and not infrequently weird. On the face of it, the questions here might seem to be empirical rather than philosophical. One can imagine a votary of the new school of experimental philosophy, consisting of philosophers who hand out questionnaires to find out what people think about morality, knowledge, the self, truth, rationality, free will, and other great staples of philosophical inquiry, seeing this as an opportunity to exercise ingenuity. Critics of this approach point out that work of this kind is better done by empirical social science, and anyway only results in descriptions of what people think. Not always a secure guide to what people should think. But in fact, there is a deep philosophical point behind the idea of a relationship between goodness and happiness. More carefully phrased, the two questions concern the quality of lives perceived by those living them as being flourishing and satisfying, with valuable relationships at their core and directed at the attainment of aims worth pursuing. Suppose one had a conception of such a life and could make a sound case for its value. It would be hard to disentangle the fact of its being a well-doing and positive life, in which, therefore, the person living it is a good person, from that person's sense of eudaimonia. Aristotle's idea of flourishing and satisfaction, now usually and rather feebly translated as happiness. On this view of the matter, happiness and goodness turn out to be the reverse and obverse of the same coin, making their relationship a peculiarly intimate and mutually reinforcing one. But given the thoughts mentioned above, that there might be some happy but bad folk and some good by some lights, but unhappy folk, the connection cannot be a necessary one. They only become reciprocal in the optimal way suggested when the notions of goodness and happiness at stake are appropriately defined, and that is an obvious enough point. Cyril Joad would have produced his standard brains trust remark. It depends what you mean by, on being asked, either question, for one can only get so far with generalizations. In this case, that means one cannot give a fully satisfactory answer until a clear and detailed account has been given of what each of the vague, feel-good words good and happy means, which is a large part of the task of ethics as a whole. The following discussions between them seek to contribute towards a clarification of both, sometimes by direct and sometimes by indirect means. With such large, amorphous, and important concepts, the task of exploring them has to involve a variety of approaches, one of which, to quote Wittgenstein, is to assemble reminders of things we otherwise know.
DeWitt Wallace founded the Reader's Digest as a pocket-sized non-fiction magazine intended to inform, enlighten, and entertain. He wanted to condense in the digest the best of previously published material. He filled the magazine with articles that celebrated the values he most admired in his nation: hard work, thrift, a calm courage through difficult times, love of God, family, and country, and laughter, much laughter. The first issue in February 1922 had a print order of only 5,000 copies. When DeWitt Wallace passed away in June 1981, the Reader's Digest had become the world's most widely read magazine, with an estimated 100 million readers each month, and was published in 16 languages.
Hello?
Hello. I noticed your want ad in the paper this morning.
You mean about my Mercedes 350?
That's right. I noticed it's a '79 and wondered about its condition.
Well, it's in great shape. I've been the only driver, and all maintenance has been done according to the dates specified in the service manual.
The ad said it has air conditioning, power brakes, power steering, automatic transmission, and a convertible top.
That's right. I forgot to add that the tires and battery are all new, too. It has comprehensive insurance with coverage for another 8 months.
Do you mind my asking why you're selling the car?
Oh, my company is transferring me to Europe next month, so I plan to buy a new one over there.
I noticed you didn't mention any price in the ad.
We can negotiate that if you would like to come and see it.
Fine. Where do you live?
At the corner of 8th and Parkhurst. I'll be home all evening. Come any time after 6:30.
All right. I'll be there around 7.
We hope you have enjoyed our program. Subscribe for more helpful content and come to learn English with us.